Well, first of all, I think all of us want to have mastermind groups in at least two domains. One is kind of a general mastermind group, which just goes across areas, and one is more of an industry-specific mastermind group. Now, industry-specific, you can think broader than most of you will think. For example, in my industry, I guess you could say, I could think I sell how-to information on how to become wealthy, so on financial fluency and investing and building businesses. And I could think that domain. But I think the problem with that is if I try to find an industry-specific there, I run into a situation where I might have people who feel a little bit competitive with that. So instead I say, what's the broader category? Well, it's still selling how-to information in just a different form. So maybe there are people in the area of health. Well, I'm not going to be competing with like a Jorge Cruz or a Andrew Weil. That's not an area of expertise for me. So we could share openly the best things that I do, the best things that they do. So what I'm looking for you guys to have is an industry mastermind group, but maybe your industry group's a little bit larger. For example, if you're having a problem, maybe you're having some competition, because it used to be with CPA practice, it was very geographically bounded. It's not really that way anymore, although maybe you specialize because you do stuff that's California-based or something. But there are plenty of other professional services businesses that you could network with and have your mastermind group there, because the things that face you face attorneys, face other types of consultants that would really fit really well with what you can share best practices without having to hold back your best stuff. Because if you do that, you don't have a mastermind group. Really, you don't. You have not even a committee. You just basically have a group of huddling together to try to give as little as possible and get as much, and that's too much like the outside world at times. So industry specific. Number two, a generalized mastermind group. Now, how would I run that? I would say you want to set yourself up with 5, 6, 7, 8 people. 8's probably perfect because you're going to have 1 or 2 that flake on you, leaving you with about 4, 5, or 6 for each of your meetings. And all you're doing is you're getting together. Now, you can get together once a month or more often than that. I recommend that if you have a mastermind group for general whole life, you get together at least once a month. Why? If you're getting together less frequently than that, it's really hard to hold each other accountable. There's too much of a time period in between. My mastermind group, we found that every 2 weeks works really well. You find that over the course of the year, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 or 3 meetings that the average person won't be able to make, and that's fine. That things happen. I like to set a definite day of the week, like for example, the first Monday of the month or the last Thursday of the month, so you can have a regular meeting. Or you might want to say every 2 weeks. So starting on Tuesday, May 5th. Every 2 weeks thereafter, we're just going to have that meeting set at a regular time. You can set it at each time for it, but you'll find you'll be chasing after each other's schedules way too much. Conference line is how I do most of my mastermind sessions. We try to get together in person at least twice a year. Often we'll do it around some other travel that people are going to make anyways. So for yourself, maybe you'll do it around a Maui event, or maybe you'll do it around some other workshop you guys are attending. It doesn't matter, but getting together in person is really important to build relationship time. You want to have time spent doing the masterminding, but you also want time spent just building the friendships. Your whole life mastermind group, what's going to drive that? If you have people that you really do feel a sense of friendship with, because they need to know about your life, and you need to know about their life. Otherwise, it's really hard to give good feedback and input to each other. Once you've got your group together, what you'll do is the very first meeting you'll get together, and you'll talk about what are the expectations and what are the purposes that each of you have that you want to get out of the group. What is it you're wanting to get from it? Are you looking for accountability? Are you looking for a group who give you outside feedback? Are you looking for people who can help you take your business further? I find I try to have one group that's going to be me as a person, kind of like my personal board of directors, and not just business related. I want more than that. Life is a lot more than just the business side of things. Now, it's also nice sometimes to have that industry specific or a business specific group. And being a member of 2 or 3 or 4 mastermind groups is actually a good plus, because you'll find that groups work and then they implode and stop working so well. And it's really good to have multiple groups than you can find. The first several groups that I put together were by chance. But later on, I started actively thinking, who do I want to mastermind with? And once I found 1 or 2 partners, we said, who else do we want to join? And we actually outreached and called up different people to ask them if they wanted to be joining us in that mastermind group. First call, expectations, ground rules. What do people want to get out of there? That's what you're talking about for the hour. What's your policy going to be on confidentiality? What stays in the group? What's said in the group, does it stay in the group? Or do you share it with other people? Can you share it with your spouses? And there's no right or wrong. It's just everyone needs to agree with it. I tend to like groups that are much more confidential. I feel more comfortable with that. However, I'm comfortable in a mastermind group if someone wants to share with their spouse, provided the spouses understand that confidentiality is important. Otherwise, what happens is you're confidential there, they tell their spouse, the spouse has no idea that inadvertently they say something to somebody else, and so making it explicit to the spouses if you're going to allow, or the partners if you're going to allow that to happen. Or you can say, don't tell your spouses, don't tell your partners at all. This is what's said here stays here. Either way is fine. So up to you. You can also have it be where you let people know who's in your mastermind group, or you can say who your mastermind group is could be kept confidential by itself too. There's no right or wrong answer, but it is a discussion you need to have. How do you want to say, what's the commitment level you expect from everybody? Do you expect that people are going to be missing meetings or being late? It's going to happen, so how are you going to deal with that? Are they going to need to let people know in advance? What does it look like for you to say, this is what we're expecting, my expectations are? Like if I'm in a group and I'm part of that group, part of my expectations are you're going to make every single session, or if you can't make a session, you have a real good reason for not being there. A family emergency, a business need that has to be there, or a personal need, ideally with a little bit of advance notice, but if not, it's not going to happen every single session for that. You're not going to be coming on 20 minutes late each time. If I have a mastermind partner like that, then I'm going to have a conversation, say, you know what, I really appreciate it, but you need to make a choice, either step up or step out. Totally up to you, no hard feelings either way. Now, some of you might have groups and you say, you know what, we really like this other person, and I don't have a problem with him or her being late every time. They're a great contributor when they're there, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong, but you need to have the ground rule. The sessions themselves are going to vary for how you want to do this. The first session needs to set ground rules, expectations, and purposes, so you're all very clear on what it is you're going after it. I'd also say if it's the first meeting you've ever had, set yourself a test run, 60 days, 90 days of a period. We're going to get together for 4 or 5 sessions over the next 90 days, and we're going to see how it goes. And I like to say that we're going to talk about it as a group at the end as opposed to individually chatter behind the scenes. I don't like that feeling of individuals doing that. I also would always set an expectation of, you know what, Mike, we're getting together with our mastermind. If it turns out that the rest of you find it's great chemistry, but I'm not a good fit for it, I promise you up front, no hard feelings. As long as we talk about it together, if 2 or 3 of you want to go off and do a group and I'm just not a right fit for it, I'll understand that. There's no hard feelings about that. You want to have some freedom about the group as it goes forward, because it's not about people, it's just about how the combinations fit with each other. The right groups, it's not about experience. I mean, people always think, oh, if only I had a mastermind group that had all people who were billionaires and had solved every business challenge I ever would want. That's not really what you're looking for in that generalized mastermind group. You'll find ideas that come from the strangest of places. People you think who never have these ideas can give you input and ideas that you never would have expected. Value structures should be somewhat similar. And I'm hoping that we tend to draw a certain value structure to the Maui system. I'm hoping that some of that's a given. But talk with people. What's the value structure? What does integrity mean and look like to you? For me, integrity means when people say they're going to do X, they consistently do X. Now, there are going to be occasions that people fall through. I don't meet up to X every time. But generally speaking, I'm going to meet X, or I'm going to take responsibility for it. What I don't want in a mastermind group are people who make excuses. Personally, that drives me nuts. You did it or you didn't do it. If you didn't do it, take responsibility and either say, I chose not to, or I didn't get to it this time, I'll get to it next time, or I've decided not to do it at all. I don't mind people changing their mind. What I mind are people who are saying, oh my gosh, if it wasn't for that big dog that ate my homework, and it's just very draining for you. Second session I'll recommend, and actually I posted a second session up on the new Maui Mastermind Online version, which most of you have access to. Basically, you want to do some kind of icebreaker to get to know each other. The one I have up there started asking questions that are really opening questions. Things like, share 3 past experiences that things didn't go well for you, and what did you learn from it? So sharing some of the other parts, right? Because what happens is people kind of come to a mastermind group and they kind of front, I'm terrific, I have no problems, never had a problem in my life, I can solve, they want to present that. But that doesn't give a real mastermind group. It's the willingness to say and be real. You know what? Here's the things that I struggle with. Here's the things that I'm fantastic at. Here's the things that still scare me. Here's the things that I find easy and comfortable. Because when you can see that, people become real with a sense of trust, that's where things kind of happen. So starting to get to know each other. A simple format to run is just everybody does a quick check-in. Red hat. How are you doing today? Just letting people know. 15, 30 seconds. Just a check-in going around the call there. The next part of it would be someone doing like a hot seat. Each person has a chance to be on the hot seat. If you've got 6 of you on the phone, you're in an hour session. Take 3 minutes. Everyone puts their question out there, gets feedback as we go. Next person. I would have whoever facilitates that role rotate it through. Even in my mastermind group, I tend to be pretty directive as a person. I know it's hard to believe. So when it comes to masterminding, I tend to be that much way. But my mastermind partner said, David, I'll be in your group, but you can't be taking control of it. It needs to be a whole. So we rotate that every time someone else takes the lead, and it's been fantastic. And, maybe you're great at it. Maybe someone else isn't great at it. It doesn't matter. Still rotate that through because it's important that everyone has a sense of ownership for that. And then you can also even make it, hey, next 2 weeks from now, what is it you guys want to do in our mastermind? Maybe the person who's the facilitator gets to do something unique. And you'll have different templates that I'll be putting up over time for it. So every month you'll get a different one. Like profiting, next month we'll be doing profiting from past failure. And then after that we'll be doing how to use the hats to problem solve. But what you want to do is for a little bit, you can do the same structure, hot seats, that's a great way of going. But pretty soon you need to vary it. You need to have different things going on. Otherwise it becomes stale. One of the sessions I've done with people before has been things like, well, great, we're going to spend, before this next session, we're going to get out 3 days beforehand our goals, and we're going to share it with everyone by email. Sharing information is your white hat. White hat information, it's almost a waste of time to do that on a phone call together. You're almost always better off emailing out. When you're trying to just give information to each other on a mastermind group, it's a waste of time to doing it right there on the telephone. Give out the information beforehand. And like one of the things we've done is we said, great, give out your annual goals, and then we're going to go through and we're going to take time with each person's goals and say, here's what I saw that surprised me. I didn't know this about you. Here's what I saw that I can help you with. Here's what I saw that I think you're undershooting, and maybe you should stretch here. And here's what I saw that I'm going to question, is this really what you want? Anson mentioned this is your goal up here, but Anson, on other occasions you've mentioned this is one of your values. The two seem to be in conflict here. Which is most important to you? And I can ask that. I can be that kind of touchstone for him. It's a session that you might want to do fairly early. I'd say probably about month number 2 or 3 of your mastermind group. Not right away. Why wouldn't you want to do it right away? Because you don't know each other yet. Once you know each other, then you can start to do this. But you want to do it early enough in the process so that if I know, Heather, here's what your goals are, I can give feedback based on that better. I don't want to do it right away because I have no relationship. There's no trust. And sharing goals and ambitions and dreams are pretty vulnerable stuff. So I want to have some track record of trust and relationship established first. But I don't want to wait 3 years before I find out, Heather, if only you told me that one of your goals, 4 years ago was this, I could have just simply let you know, here's a phone number for somebody. Another session you can do for each other would say, I'm going to list out, here's the 3 things that I need the most help with. And just tell each other what they are. And then if there's time permitting, go around and say, how can you help each other? Another session could be, here's the context. Madeline, before we do our mastermind, what our goal is this time is we're going to have contacts that we know who we can bring to the thing here that we can share. Madeline, you said that one of the things that you wanted to do was on the real estate side of things. Well, here's 2 other project teams that I know that are doing large development projects that might want either some of your legal expertise or maybe want some of the project management, architectural, engineering expertise that maybe Richard could provide. And here's the phone numbers for it. Or it's another session you can do. But you can get creative with that. You can also pick a topic that's really timely for all of you. Maybe all of you are really interested about how is the economy going to affect your business. Or maybe you all have a session, this is down the road after you have some real trust with you, like, what's the number one thing that scares you to death right now in your life? It's freeing when you find out that all of you have pretty related fears most times. Or maybe you say, talk a session on a charity. So there's various topics. The key is you want to rotate through, change it up at different times so it doesn't become too stale, and you don't want to over-choreograph it. And this has been a hard one for me because I tend to be pretty... if you would have saw like the template that I originally had for us here, had 2 pages where I had basically everything charted out. And that's good, but you have to learn to kind of let the playbook go and see what people's needs are for that.